Hi, friends. My name's host Eric, and I'm getting in a quick stream here before I go to bed. I'm starting to feel relatively tired, but I wanted to keep you all updated on the highly important topic of Eric's movie ideas. So, my newest notion for a feature film, and I think it's indisputably an excellent one, is a horror film based on the game Chutes and Ladders. It's kind of like a cross between Saw and Chutes and Ladders. So, the thing is, there's this group of college age kids, half girls, half boys. And naturally, they're doing something. And then one of the less wise of the males of the group suggests, "Have you heard about the old Chutes and Ladders house? Supposedly it's haunted." "You guys, this looks too scary. I don't want to go to the Chutes and Ladders house." Um, Hi, hello everybody. So, the point is this. You know, like Dawn's girlfriend, Katie, she says, "Dawn, I'm scared. Can't we just go?" But he's insisting, "Come on, babe, it'll be no problem." Of course, Dawn is the first one to die in the Chutes and Ladders house. And here's the reality. The guy who's killing all the college students in the Chutes and Ladders house, he is a sociopath who had traumatic experiences related to Chutes and Ladders as a child. Okay, well, then I will consider you innocent of that charge, since you come all the way in here to defend. What I support I don't think he did. That's the sort of thing I remember. He did accuse me, I believe, in disrespecting his girlfriend, which I corrected him on, but that's not what you said. Anyway, we're talking about Chutes and Ladders and horror right now, Mr. Bobby, not whatever it is you're feeling fussy about. So, the thing is, the backstory is, as a child, this boy was briefly kidnapped for a couple of weeks, and a psychopath who kidnapped him made him play Chutes and Ladders continually the whole time, and he kept repeating the same thing to the boy. "Ladders go to heaven, Chutes go to hell." And then, after he got out of his kidnapper's clutches, he tried to have a healthy relationship with Chutes and Ladders. Like, after he was released, he had a bit of a tough time socially, but he finally got a friend to come over to his house, and he said, "Do you want to play some Chutes and Ladders?" And the boy's like, "Ooh, that's for babies. I'm leaving." And later you see a flashback where he takes a girl out on a date and they're having a nice time at dinner, and then he ill-advisedly busts out the Chutes and Ladders And she goes, "Ew, you're dorky, I'm leaving." Finally, she snaps. He snaps. And he becomes the Chutes and Ladders killer. So, critically important to this, his home has a succession of, like, situations where if you make the right choice, you get to go up the ladder. And if you make the wrong choice, you go down a chute to a horrible, grisly death of various sorts, you know. And in the end, like, only 3 of the initial large group of co-eds and regular eds Mr. Bobby, to the best of my knowledge, YouTube experiments had absolutely nothing to do with you. The experiments did not refer to you at all. Nor did the topic of the conversation was it about you. You are just delusional if you think it was. To the extent that we were negatively talking about somebody, it would have been about the trolls and stuff. Talking about you. I mean, I do remember having a conversation about you, but that video was not about you, right? If you come up in a video, like, it's probably because you did something interesting, which is another way to say you did something that confused me because it was so irrational and dumb. And I will continue to say that straight to your face or behind your back at any time, right? Because what you did was fail utterly. You failed on multiple grounds. It was okay for you potentially to be irrational, right? Because you positioned yourself as a Christian. For you to reveal that you're actually a fake Christian who doesn't care at all about the legitimate morality implicit to the thing, or having a decent relationship with God. I mean, I expect to lose rationalist arguments with you because you're being irrational. But when I'm making the right religious arguments, you should be open to those. The fact that you were not is just prove to me that you're not interested in anything positive at all, right? You're just interested in being a negative Nancy and shitting on people and starting fights and pretending to occupy this moral high ground that you clearly and abundantly do not, which was what was informed to me when I had that discussion with you. So yeah, of course. Yeah, if you fuck up badly and do stupid ass shit and say stupid ass things, if it's dramatically stupid enough, I'm gonna talk about it later. It's not like I'm hiding it from you. You can come here and receive these comments directly if you'd like. Done. No, you said you were leaving, so you're goodbye. I don't want your bullshit anymore. You fucking lying, hypocritical piece of shit. I'm trying to talk about Chutes and Ladders and horror. Meanwhile, this scumbag Christian impersonator wants to come around here and start more shit. Fuck off. Go away and don't come back. That fucking piece of shit. I really lost all respect for the man when I realized he's not susceptible to any arguments. It's not just that I'm being too rational. The best religious arguments he's not susceptible to either. At that point, fuck the motherfucker. He's just Jeff Shaw in other clothes. Well, Mr. Bobby came in and pissed me off. So I hit his ass. He keeps telling us he's going to leave and not come back. Then I'll do it for you, Mr. Bobby. Now you're gone and you're not going to come back. Well, I thought I could make some progress with the fucking guy. It was one thing. I've given up trying to make any progress with that guy. I mean, I knew he was close to it when he kept trying to push what were objectively wicked magical thinking frames. Magical thinking frames are good because they're good, right? They get a pass for being irrational, unsubstantiatable, indefensible because they're good. When you're perverting the magical thinking frame to do evil, as he was doing with his argumentation, which is basically a nobody's a good enough Christian but meme narrative, and everybody who doesn't understand Christianity exactly as I do is a fake Christian, right? Well, that's being a fake Christian. That's just being a scumbag. So it's you can be a scumbag by being irrational. I get it. It's your function limitations. Or you can be a scumbag by being rational. And I get it. That's your function limitations. You can't be a scumbag by doing both. Then you're just a scumbag. I mean, the thing is, prior to that conversation, I had faith that I could help a little bit, right? That he was abrasive, difficult, often unpleasant, but that he could be salvaged. That by engaging here, he could be helped with the truth. But that requires him to be susceptible to the truth via one of the two possible pathways to it, right? If he's not susceptible to either of them, I don't typically make a lot of moralist religious arguments. So it took that long for me to have that argument with him in full. And then I realized he's fundamentally dishonest. He's not interested in anything except starting fights and shit. He will never learn anything. And obviously, Bobby, when you have that big of a fight with me, leave, say you're not coming back or whatever, and it's that revelatory to me, it's going to be a subject of conversation. I mean, it really made me open my eyes and realize, oh, this person's, he's not what he claims to be. He's not a passionate moralist committed to the righteousness of Christianity. His expression of that is just as toxic as his expression of non-magical thinking frames. So obviously at that point you realize, okay, I was giving too much credit to his potential. Well, he's abrasive, offensive, makes people feel like dirtied by just this relentlessly, albeit not like maximum volume, but relentlessly negative, continual attempt to start fights and shit, you know? As long as I could justify it as simply a frame level dispute, that's fine. When it's not a frame level dispute and he's still doing it, Eric, why don't you be a good Christian and forgive him? I'm the most forgiving YouTuber on the platform. How fucking long have I put up with that shit? I mean, I believe in giving people many chances to see if they have growth potential, can learn something, can benefit from being here, rather than just, you know, I don't mind. No, I mean, anybody else would have banned him years ago, that boy Klaus, you know? Most forgiving doesn't mean infinitely forgiving. Just like Jeff Shaw. Anybody else would have banned him years ago. The fact that I banned him isn't informative to us at all. The question is, how long did I put up with him before banning him? That's the question. Well, hopefully he doesn't waste his time. Because I don't plan to let him waste any more of mine. Well, his needs aren't my problem. He's been taking from us all with his continual needling of people, snarky comments, positioning himself as having the moral high ground, while, you know, convincing me at least of his earnestness about that, until the conversation the other day when I realized, oh, he's just completely full of shit. He'll just shift to whatever he wants to shift to so that he can be negationary and put others down. Negating my relationship with God, which is genuinely authentic, and it was motivated by an authentic need to engage God, namely I needed God's help to quit drinking. To try to position that as fake somehow, it's appalling and offensive, right? It's like, it's one of the realest things that ever happened in my life. One of the most important things that ever happened in my life. And for him to invalidate the legitimacy of my relationship with God because it doesn't conform exactly with his fucking pre-enlightenment understanding of Christianity. Well, I mean, even a pre-enlightenment understanding of Christianity should get what needs to be prioritized, right? It's not divisive scorn heaped upon everybody who doesn't precisely agree with your random dogmatic interpretation of some old book not written by God or Jesus. You know, he's hidden, banned, goodbye. I'm done getting safe harbor to that toxic hypocrite. It was fine when I didn't think he was a hypocrite and he was just toxic about rationality, right? Once I realized he was toxic about God too, good fucking bye. No way. You can't have it both ways. You can be toxic about rationality, but you can't be toxic about rationality and toxic about your magical thinking, friend. Sorry. So I typed this lady other than the one, the typing session I put up on the internet today. And she talked about astrology or whatever. And I said, no, I don't I'm not dissing it, Uh, where I don't have anything against it. It's a possible magical thinking frame you could adopt, and as with any magical thinking frame, depends on how you use it. She said, "Well, I think there's something kind of derisive or dismissive about you calling that a magical thinking frame." Um, and then she tried to make a distinction between the psychological definition of a magical thinking frame and the way I was using the term. But what I said was, no, magical thinking frame, to call something magical thinking is not to say that it's bad, worthless, indefensible, useless, whatever. Although it is to say that it's indefensible, but the point is to reference a variety of possible ways of dealing with questions that aren't reducible. So if you can't come up with a defensible, like deconstructed, parsed out explanation for something or whatever, that doesn't mean you therefore have no need to engage that area of analysis for some potential reason you might have. The example I always use, and the only example that I've ever really thought about, is uh, that you can't know what you should do in life with rationality. Rationality can tell you what you should not do. We can defend claims about that, and we can establish and prove why those things are the case. And you don't need any God for that, right? You don't need any astrology, you don't need any you don't need any But for positive moral indications, you need something besides just rationality. Also, it's the case, though, for INFJs, like Rachel and that lady I typed today, for them, what they need a magical thinking frame to engage is actually themselves. They need to seek out some external, non-rational means of explaining themselves to themselves, understanding themselves by those explanations. Because they're so map focused, they expect a map to explain to them who they are rather than referencing any subjective data. There's a stick in my boot. No, obviously I wouldn't waste my time watching somebody who's unfortunately mired in the wrongnesses of socionics. He couldn't he couldn't even define any term when we debated, quote unquote. All he did was run away from me in the ring and try to pretend he didn't get hit. So obviously I don't waste my time watching wrong people talk about cognitive functions. I heard from this lady, no, from the dude earlier today, that street urchin guy typed in his ISTP. You'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to type that guy's ISTP. There's no chance in hell, even if you had only a weak grasp of what extroverted intuition is, if you had any grasp of it at all, that you would convey that that guy was extroverted intuition polar. Yeah, well, maybe that's the case, but the point is, that's not disqualifying in terms of argumentation. If you were actually to flow the argumentation, you got his ass whooped in no uncertain terms. So, I don't worry about lay judges, as they say. Flow judges pay attention to, write down actually, the things that are said, check the flow to see if this person actually followed through and met this burden and stuff like that, you know. I worry about how it parses in terms of the actual outcome and what's left at the end in terms of on the flow. I don't worry so much about people's perceptions because you can't really control that. I mean, you can, but I can't. You know, someone can, but not. I'm not very good at it. So I just worry about doing the business I'm there to do. If the audience doesn't think the plumbing works after I, the plumber, have come fixed it, then they'll discover otherwise when they try to use the toilet. You know, my arguments are sound. But that's why I don't really make a lot of videos about typology and stuff. I don't want to get in the fray with people as though this were still an open question. It's not. The significant factors of the architecture have been resolved here. It's not my system. It is the correct explanation of Jungian cognitive functions to the extent that of all of the areas that have been fully explored enough to be explained. Well, look, I don't doubt that Jack's not going to get everything wrong. Socionics is better than any other alternative, I guess. You know, it's like the best of the wrong explanations. It was this street urchin fellow. And the reason I want to type police him is because he typed that guy as ISTP. So I don't, he may be the type he claims, ENTP, or may at least be convincingly enough so that he doesn't get arrested for that. But he's getting a citation for criminally negligent typing. To have typed that guy as an ISTP means you are not qualified, have absolutely no business trying to type people and telling them a type there. If you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you could be doing damage. I mean, I get we all have to start somewhere, right? Where he needs to start is watch all of my typing sessions and everything I've said about defensible typology, all the explanation of the architecture of it, how it starts with a prime directive, blah, 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 all the way down. And then maybe he'll be able to actually type people. Until and unless he has done that, he should stop fucking Dunning-Krugering his wrongness onto other people. If you think that guy, whose extroverted intuition could not have been more obviously not polar, if you type that guy as ISTP, just get the fuck out of Dodge. Well, anyway, the thing is, this is also why I don't like type leads and getting into typology stuff. It makes me mad. You've got one source of correct articulation regarding typology, a complete lack of consensus regarding that, and endless numbers of new people with half-assed, incomplete, or wrong understanding of typology positioning themselves as experts, muddying the water of the field such that nobody can take anything seriously or know what they should take seriously. when I hear that shit, right, I'm like, if I were to walk down Typology Street at all the different vendors offering typological services, if I were to try a bunch of them in succession, I'd say, well, this is obviously bullshit. Every one of these people is doing different things. They've all got different explanations. It just seems like it's whatever you want to say about it. You know, people try to explain things, but they don't have any convincing reasons for it, and they contradict each other all the time. Nobody should take this seriously. That's what any sane person would say if they walked down Typology Boulevard and visited all the various vendors on Typology Boulevard. And the reason is because everybody has it at least somewhat wrong. In order to not have it at least somewhat wrong, you have to have embraced the notion that the correct model of it understands each configuration as a strategy to upholding the prime directive, which is to close the gap between experience and map, or in other words, the communicative reality that you have and understand, and the experiential reality that you have and understand. So without that, then we're not equipped to call the thing a model. It doesn't have all the necessary components, right? Then we've got to understand that there are different kinds of vectors, different kinds of objects, and different kinds of fields, just like on any good model, right? Something correctly modeled. I've articulated what those are. There's information flow that I'm not exactly sure I have mapped out exactly right. I'm not sure, in other words, what the interaction mechanics of a given function across multiple fields are, but I think I've correctly articulated which two fields, at least, comprise, if not the totality, the vast majority of a given attentional manner's, where a given attentional manner does its work, you know? So I've articulated all the architectural things. The fact is, you cannot understand cognitive functions correctly, and you will always be doing more damage than good, even if you're 80% right about what you're saying, if you're not operating under that frame of reference. You can't be right if you're not operating under the right frame of reference. You can only be scattershot, and unfortunately, you're going to be operating under some frame of reference and be advocating either implicitly or explicitly for that frame of reference, and that it validates the conclusions you're saying, even though that frame of reference is wrong, and therefore any validation is invalidated from a bigger picture. And ergo, that's why it's just like I just want to throw out my hands and say, fuck all y'all. Everybody wants to be the guy who's made up some random shit that's their own thing. That no, all that shit is just garbage in the river. What I've done here is correctly explain Jungian cognitive functions. It needed correct explanation. I have correctly explained it. It is exclusively correct, the explanation. To the extent that other people's explanations disagree with mine, or even do not fully incorporate the architecture I've articulated here, then they need to be thrown in the garbage can and lit on fire. They are just toxic waste. When they've spent 10 years refining, trying to figure out, scrapping false start figure outs until finally correctly explaining cognitive functions upon a couple of key insights happen some point during the game, and then have all these years of empirics in which I can test and refine both my understanding of functions and the linkage between the questions I'm asking and the function and the type themselves, etc., and the model to validate the model, to provide justifications for a person's type, and to the refine the process such that there's ever stronger linkages between what I'm asking and what I'm concluding from it. Until you've done all that shit, then before you start getting into to making content about typology, you need to make sure you watch and understand all the key videos on my channel. Because I've done that work. And if you're trying to be a surgeon before you started med school, then you are going to kill people. Sure, maybe I started to type people before I really knew what I was doing, but I was still more knowing what I was doing than anybody else. Now that it's fully explained, to the extent that now that the explored area is fully explained and the main architectural components are in place and they're rock solid, nobody should be typing anybody until they fully understand what I'm saying. Then they type people. They understand both my explanation of cognitive functions and what I'm trying to do when I'm asking certain kind of questions. That guy today, he really understood what I'm saying. He understood cognitive functions very well. He could type people. I didn't want it to be a brooding session or a complaining session or whatever. I came here to talk about Chutes and louder and horror. Mr. Bobby came in, got me off topic, and then what was it that? All right, that topic of street urchin came up, which triggered in me a general set of anger about the power of stupidity to vastly outnumber and completely obscure intelligence and truth that's so powerful and potentially impactful as this. And it's not like these people are poorly intentioned. It's Dunning-Kruger. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that there is a single correct explanation for this. They're feeling out various things using their own intuition, which they trust to come to conclusions and operate off of those. I mean, it's an understandable beginner's mistake, but now that it's explained, you have a responsibility to actually understand it, otherwise you're just destroying the field. It's very much like what killed Bill Gates. There's proper treatment for cancer, and then there's idiots promising holistic health cures like ground up stone fruit pits and stuff and other bullshit that's not an actual treatment for cancer. And so he goes for that. Let's go with that stupid shit. And before long, cancer is too advanced for him to treat, and he dies. Right? So, yes, we've got people who are actually doctors who treat cancer. And then we've got people who treat cancer and call themselves health practitioners, but are not actually doctors, right? They don't actually know what they're doing. They're just stuck in their holistic woohoo bullshit. It's the equivalent here on a metaphysical level, right? People, as we have seen, are very fussy about their identities, about their type, etc. It's something that I've learned over the years to take seriously, to make sure I'm not jumping to conclusions, that I'm doing the best job I can, and doing a thorough job. Like I took almost 2 hours with the lady after the guy. The guy was a little easier to do. But like I respect the client enough to never lie to them, to inform them how certain or not certain I am, and to seek and try to address any possible arguments against the type that they might be able to come up with. Sometimes I end up being swayed towards their position, but that's only if I do a lot of additional testing and and get results that are consistent with their suggestion I might have them mistyped, right? Um, and that's a minority of the time. Usually it's like, no, I had you typed correctly. So the thing is, I I do the thing responsibly, like a doctor does. I only use proven the most proven treatments available to me at the time to accurately assess the person. These other people are making up their own uh, things without any body of empirics to see if the thing actually correlates or not, right? Like, well, let me ask you a question like this. What does he think he's testing? Oh, he thinks he's testing meow, but he has no body of empirics to determine if that actually links to it. It's fine if you're pioneering that shit and you've got to build that body of empirics to check to see what works. But such exists now. I know how to do it properly, and I can tell you the strength of the correlations for various things. Why you ask this question to determine this sort of thing, and only some of it requires any intuition on my part. Most of it, you can articulate to somebody else what answers meow would indicate and at what weight you should put those answers and back it up with good justification. Namely, well, that's what the body of empirics shows over time, you know? Well, I agree there's no typology community, but there's a typology field. And what I'm saying is they're doing damage to the field by doing it wrong, doing damage to humanity by undermining the field, which is the one area of active analysis that has promise in terms of resolving humanity's difficulties. So it's too important, right? It's just like politics. It's too important for people who are unqualified on multiple levels to presume they know plenty to do what they're doing. In politics and in psychology, typology, people do that a lot. In other fields, like if I'm at the nuclear power plant starting a new job, I'm not going to presume I know what I'm doing. I'm going to assume I have to be taught how to do everything. Well, this is of equivalent importance to a nuclear power plant, but people are just coming in, Dunning-Kruger, all afluster with Dunning-Kruger going, I'm sure I know exactly what I'm doing. I just pull some levers and find out. Well, fuck those people. I'm trying to explain things here. They're trying to play YouTube. Things in the world need to be explained. And I have the explanation. I'm pretty good at verbalizing the explanation. The explanation is stout, withstands lots of scrutiny. So these people who make it such that they basically only have signs saying, here's an easy explanation. That way you don't have to listen to the correct one. Or here's a complicated explanation. So if you're not trying to figure out whether it's actually correct, you can assume it's correct because it sounds fancy. And nobody but me is at any of the framework. They don't articulate what it is they're trying to do. They don't articulate any of the core terms you need to articulate very clearly before you can even meaningfully say anything about the topic. You know, it's like, let's say you're a farmer and you're trying to harvest your crops. And all of your farm workers are 5-year-old children. And you try to give them tools, jobs they can do, and then you start trying to harvest. And before you know it, you look back and the 5-year-olds have basically destroyed your whole harvest. It makes you just want to quit even farming, you know? Makes you want to quit farming. But I did hear about something that interested me a great deal today, an immense amount. Well, I'm pretty impressed by that boy Klaus. Even a regular sized violin is fairly hard to play with normal sized fingers. So even if you have very small fingers, the world's smallest violin is going to be almost impossible to fret the notes properly because, you know, you need a certain, you have to basically get a, I don't know, like a nail, the tip of a nail to fret down if you want to pitch it right. So the fact that you're able to do that and play one of the world's hardest concertos really does impress me. And I just want to say kudos to you, sir. Moist Chang. That's a great name for her. It's hilarious. That would be a fun way for her to start every live stream. Like walking out of the bathroom, drying her hair. Oh, hi, gang. Just out of the shower. She did it like every time. Then people would start to catch on. You didn't just get out of the shower. You're planning this. She has an aura, a fresh aura. What color is a fresh aura? Is it very light blue? So you're assuming then that she's fully clean, New Groove, if she smells like zest. Because if she smells like Irish spring, if she smelled like Irish spring, then instead of being fully clean, she'd be clean as a whistle. So who here thinks she's fully clean and who thinks she's just clean as a whistle? Or actually, Is clean as a whistle less than fully clean? Can we conclude that's necessarily the case? I'm not sure. I mean, only fully clean, objectively, denotably claims absolute complete cleanliness. Clean as a whistle could very well be some advertising talk to hide the fact that it gets you less than fully clean. Now, if we contrast both these soaps with ivory soap, what do we learn? Well, we learn that ivory soap suspiciously avoids any cleanliness related claim and instead merely says it's 99% pure. Pure what? One must ask. Based on their lack of specificity, could be pure shit. 99% pure shit. Ivory soap. It's the 1% of soap we add to the shit that makes it soap. I like lava soap myself. As it claims on the bar, it does feature the power of pumice. And my skin's a little tougher than, some wimpy hand soap or something that's 99% pure whatever, right? My soap needs to be cleaned by a volcano. I mean, my face needs to be cleaned by a volcano, which is why I use lava soap. After that, I rub a thick layer of caustic lye on my face to get the remaining bits of dirt off. And finally, I say, clean as a whistle. I do have zest, so I additionally sometimes emerge from the shower zestfully clean. But I use the lava soap. I just got a new bar of lava soap. Prior to having gotten that new bar, I was on a zest regimen for a while because it took me, a couple shopping trips to remember to get another bar of lava soap, which they blessedly have in the supermarket in Mariposa. Not every place has it. Got a lot of SI attachments to lava soap. My grandmother was a big advocate of lava soap. Well, I associated with my grandmother, so how manly is that? It is night. It is almost 11 p.m. Zest. What would the noun zest taste like? It depends which fruit you zest it from. If you have orange zest, it tastes like bitter thing, slightly orangey. If lava soup. Now, you don't want to eat lava soup, show media. That would be an attempt to clean your insides, and your insides probably aren't that dirty. Dial stings the eyes like no other. What's its motto? If zest is zest, you're not fully clean until you're zest fully clean. And Irish Spring is clean as a whistle. And Ivory is 99% pure. What is dial? Is it something like dial in the freshness? Or turn up the freshness. Well, that's pretty close. I was pretty close. What's another kind of name brand soap that might be out there? Who can tell me, without Googling it, what is the slogan for Big Red? Ooh, Dove. Well, I decided to give up supper and replace it with dinner. GDX098. But, well, I like the ribeye steak at the, probably ribeye steak. When I go out to a nice meal, if they have ribeye, I'll get it almost every time. If they don't have ribeye, I'm likely to not order any kind of steak. What's that sound out there? A helicopter? Ooh, I wonder if I get the moon right now. If I move this over here, I think I might be able to. Let me move this telescope over here. I'm going to try to move the moon. It definitely is a helicopter. Okay, I'm gonna bring you over here. And in fact, if I could get the moon in focus here, I could even set up the phone attachment, and you guys could look at the moon as I'm seeing it as well. Can you see it in the sky as it is? Yeah, you can. It's a bright moon tonight. Okay. Huh. I need to get like a little bit of a chair here, maybe. Is this adjustable too? Oh, yeah. It is. Okay. Is that the moon? I think I got it in the picture, but it's for this part now. I don't see anything. But we seem to be at the spot. Hmm. this do? Okay. So, I don't know why this doesn't work. It seems to be getting anything through here that I can tell. Let's see anything. So why doesn't that work? How do I like this thing? I don't like this part. Maybe it doesn't lock. Huh. I wonder what's going wrong with this. There we go. Oh, there we go. Right. Right there. Now. Okay. I almost see it. Let's try. Oh, it's so close. It's better. Okay. Almost there. How do I just stop moving around? You just push? Oh, this thing on the bottom maybe? Yeah, that's it. There we go. That's how you stop that. Now, I had it. Now I've lost it again. There we go. Okay, that should be right in. Oh, I kicked it. Good. Okay. Now, except it's not quite in. Huh. Okay. Okay. Let's see if I can meow this. Where's the camera on this? Let me find a ladder so I can see what I can see. Doesn't seem to work at the moment. Well, I have to figure that out with the attachment that goes with it. But what I'm getting is a pretty good view of the moon, but not super amplified as much as I would expect it. So I'm kind of curious about getting. I'm going to get Rachel to come look at it, though. I told her I would. If I could get it to so you can see it. Hey, Rachel.
Hey,
You want to come look at the moon?
yeah.
Okay. I've got it ready to look at.
I have to get my shoes to wear.
Okay. I had a flashlight in it just now. I probably need that flashlight. Okay. So, make sure it's still the axis moved it a little bit, so see if I can address that with this. Yes. And all right, so you look for right here.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's beautiful.
You can see it pretty good, huh?
Yeah. See all like the cratery places and the different texture on the moon? It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it with this other lens now, see if it makes any difference. It's a little chilly out here, huh?
Okay.
Okay. A more magnified. Check that out.
Really? Oh my god. Wow.
That's even better, huh?
Yeah, it is. I see all like little dots and places where the surface is different.
Those are moon
Crazy.
dogs.
Moon dogs. I always wondered.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm so glad we got this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to try to do right now. I'm going to try to get the phone attachment and see if I can show the people what we're looking at.
I would be cool if that could happen. I'm having trouble. I was having such nice napping time with him.
Well, sorry.
He'll come back.
Alright, so this thing goes on there. Oh, I see why. Yeah, okay. So this goes like this. This camera attachment. So the camera is going to go like this. And if I get this to work, and you guys are going to get to look at something you've never seen before. The moon. So we'll put this bridge apart. Don't break this thing before you've even used it one time, Eric, please. Could you do that for me? Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to line up the camera. What's the camera that's being used right now? Is it this? This one? It's the middle one. It's that one. So I'm going to need to move the phone just a little bit more like this way. Let's see. Okay, let's go try this. We'll see if I can get this to work. It's got these fine adjustment knobs on it. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about that. I briefly disconnected you. Can you see anything? You can't see anything. Obs. The question really is, why not? Let's see. Well, first I'm going to have to be able to see something through here. So let's see if we can see some light. So we have to do this in front of the light. Oh, that makes more sense. See if I can make it work. So this is the light. Oh, there. See, that's how you figure this sort of thing out. Alright, so we'll just make it in there very carefully. It's the wrong way. Now we're going to make it this way. Very, very, very carefully. Just like that. Now we have this in front of the camera. So you see you get a little hole to look at things through. All right. Now let's go to the outside again and see if we can see that there moon. First, let me check it's still in the meow. If not, of course. Start with these things. There we go. Well, hopefully good enough. Well, so far, I can't get a very clear picture. Let's see what happens if I do this. Oh. Okay. Still in there. This doesn't work. I'm sure I just need to figure out how to make it work better, but no, it definitely doesn't seem to work. Let me just try this. You see me? No? Well, I got a good look at the moon. I'm pleased with that. It's my first progress with this thing, really, where I saw something. Proof that it works. I'll have to figure out this phone thing on some other occasion, because that does not seem to work yet, but, you know, I could potentially have this on the wrong side. I don't know. I have to look it up. Otherwise, I'll never understand it. Because it requires too much TE for poor little Eric. So what I need to do now is return this telescope to either your mom's face or my mom's face. One of the two. I don't really want to do this while carrying the phone, but I guess I will anyway. So what I want to make sure I can figure out is how to get good pictures of what I'm seeing through the telescope. If I'm just looking at it with my own eyes, there's no point in that. And there we go, Mr. Telescope. Back where you belong. Well, I think it's fair to say that was a long, hard trip to Telescope Town. And for most of it, you guys couldn't see anything at all. So, it was a not entirely successful telescope endeavor for me since I couldn't get the phone to work. But it was somewhat successful because I could see the moon. However, for you, you couldn't see anything. So it was a complete failure for you. In other words, you failed badly. This is the moon filter. I didn't put that on, but I'm not sure what it does exactly. Maybe it makes the moon look more moon-like. I haven't even taken it out of this box yet, I don't think, so I'm not sure what it looks like. Let's find out. Oh, I guess it's like sunglasses for your lens. With the sunglasses for your lens, I guess the moon's not quite so bright. I don't know why you'd want it less bright, but I guess you do. Maybe it doesn't blind you so much. But I didn't feel like I was being blinded by the moon. Yes, the moon has a history of blinding people, but it's not by virtue of its brightness. Rather, it is caused by the fact that the moon pokes people in the eye with sticks. I've asked him to stop on multiple occasions now. Like Burger King, I encourage you to have it your way. But if your way isn't my way, then your way is wrong. Where are you off to, Boa? He's off to see the gizzard. He's off to the gizzard shop to purchase some gizzards. He's going to gather a big bag of gizzards and then play Indian Santa Claus. In India, Santa Claus goes by in late September and gives all the good children a gizzard. Rachel, are you talking to Karma's pimp? I hope not. I have a crush on you too. In fact, I have more than a crush on you. I have a happy realization that I am already married to you. So, I should be able to hold on to you for a while. Do my best. Not to have Rachel be swept off her feet by Karma's pimp. Karma's pimp and I we can fight like bison men, run into each other head to head, so one of us gives up. Karma's pimp doesn't get a helmet. I do, so I have a bit of an advantage in this battle. My helmet also has horns on it. Meanwhile, Karma's pimp totally forgot to bring a hat. Not even a cap. So he's taking it straight to the dome, Just like I'm about to take this bomb rip straight to the dome. Rachel knows. Soulmates understand the importance of taking rips straight to the dome. It helps us to be sane in the membrane. You know, I think that Cypress Hill song really got it exactly backwards. Marijuana doesn't make you insane in the membrane. It makes you sane. As sane as the first day of spring, as sane as sane as the Surgeon General. He's very sane. As sane as safe and sane fireworks. So, there you have it. Rachel and I went to town today. We got a couple sandwiches. I ate my sandwich, and now I have eaten half of her sandwich as well. So she has no sandwich left. But, I reminded her about it. She didn't grab it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to eat this sandwich. And she's hopefully is, by not getting it, she was hopefully tacitly saying, I'm not going to remember this sandwich. If she finds herself hungry, we do have other options besides just that half sandwich. We stocked up on all of our frozen foods. That wasn't today. We did have a sandwich short not that long ago, but it wasn't today. Today was not filled with a lot of shorts. I don't know. Rachel and I were having a good time joking about things on the way to town. A lot of that joking around was predicated on the feature film we want to produce, Chutes and Ladders and Horror. The last word in the title is one of those made out of dripping blood font. It's all good. Right. Chutes and Ladders and Horror. With only the last word in dripping blood font. It's a classic horror movie. It's got all your classic horror movie tropes. But it's got all of the delighted appeal of Chutes and Ladders. So it's really hitting on all cylinders there. Everybody loves Chutes and Ladders. Everybody understands the pain of landing on a chute and having to slide all the way down. But in this horror movie, you don't just slide down to the bottom. You slide to your death. And, the Chutes and Ladders master, which is like the dungeon master for Chutes and Ladders in this instance. He's obviously a sadistic killer, etc. But most importantly, he puts in lots of tricks. Like, there's one scene where the few surviving members, they think they're about to get on the ladder that takes them out of this horror house. But guess what happens instead? It's a fake paper ladder. And she goes crashing through it, and what's behind it? That's right, a chute. And when she realizes this, they cut to her face and she goes, ah! Like that kind of a scream. And then the camera pans around to the other side. And what's on the other side of there? It's a chute. And what does it lead to? A pit full of crocodiles. And then in one of the more gruesome scenes in the movie, you see the crocodiles in a close-up as she's screaming, tear her body directly in half. So that blood squirting from each half. Meanwhile, her boyfriend, or the guy that she had started to like on this little trip, Devin, he's screaming, Maggie, no! And then his friend Cody's like, Devin, bro, I know, but we've got to go. And they run they find eventually, that's the last person who died. Then they find the real ladder. And if she just hadn't gotten overly enthusiastic, if she hadn't panicked, taking her time, she'd still be alive today. Maggie would. Well, yeah, they get out. They try to call the police on this whole thing, tell them what happened. But when the police get there, there's no evidence of chutes and ladders ever being there. Neither chutes nor ladders. The only thing the cops find is one suspicious blood stain, no bodies. The college kids can't understand how the chutes and ladders killer managed to get away scot-free, but that's because they didn't realize there was going to be a sequel. Chutes and Ladders 2. This time, it's shootier. Well, I mean, the core horror, how horror movies like to have a repetitive chant of something spooky that one of the characters say, like, can you come out to play? But they've got like a bloody axe. Well, in this one, it's the saying that the killer says. And he plays it over the loudspeakers throughout the Chutes and Ladders houses. Ladders go to heaven, chutes go to hell. He's got kind of a crypt keeper vibe going on. So, the Chutes and Ladders Deluxe Edition obviously includes some escalators because what happened is the federal government got involved and pointed out that Chutes and Ladders is not disability accessible. So they had to replace all the ladders with elevator lifts and escalators, and replace the chutes with hot air balloons to gently lower the disabled people down into the ground. So I appreciate that. The early rendition of the game was it was unacceptable by contemporary standards. It was very ableist. Like, okay, how are disabled kids supposed to feel when they play this, knowing they can't even climb ladders? They only may be able to go down a chute. And I also said, plus, your whole concept, Chutes and Ladders, is stolen from a slide, which is both a chute and a ladder combined. It's both too early and too late. Well, it's too late for this stream to last much longer, but it's too early for it to quite end yet. I'm on my assorted night drugs. chicken tonight, which includes tonight, not every night, but tonight includes a half Klonopin, as well as 2 gabapentins, and a couple of chlortomtons just to err on the side of caution. Trying to wake up. What about you, Winston's mom? Why are you trying to wake up? Why don't you just go back to bed? It's nighttime. What are you, some kind of crazy night owl? I wonder if the early bird gets the worm applies to owls. I would guess no. Why? Well, they're not really diurnal per se. You want to knock another arrow in their nocturnal belt. I mean, bow. Long bow. If you're gonna have a bow, have a long bow. It can shoot a whole lot farther. And if you want to have a boat, have a long boat. You can fit Vikings like my father. And if you want to have a coat, have a long coat. It'll keep your top legs warm. And if you want to have a moat, have a long moat. It'll stop your foes like a storm. My poem. If you want to have a tote, have a long tote. You can carry more shit than that. If you want to have a gloat, have a long gloat. As would a gloating cat. If you want to have a float, have a long float. Because that way you'll get wet. And if you want to write a note, write a long note. Because that's the kind of note they'll get. Somebody turn down the smokiness. Well, I am needless to say glad I was able to focus in on something, see it clearly, get a good picture, show Rachel the moon, proof of concept. You know, the telescope works. And that means I don't have to worry about my previous failures to correctly locate something in the telescope as indicative of it not working. It works, I just have to be better at finding the thing I'm trying to look at. Which is same problem I have in sex. I just got to get better at finding the thing that I'm looking at. It seems like half the time I think I'm humping away and I'm just stabbing my dick into the wall. And Rachel's patiently going like, Honey, over here. I could have sworn that. Oh, it's a wall. Well, I'm really bad at this. No, she reassures me. You're wonderful. Really? Yes. Now get over here and let me help you find the right place to put that thing of yours. Okay. Here? That's my elbow, Eric. We've talked about this before. Elbows for bending your arm, right? Not for sexual intercourse? Right, not for sexual intercourse. Let's try again. I just feel like giving up now. It's okay. We're going to just see you through this all the way through it, okay? Okay. Here? That's my elbow again. I'm never going to get this. This is a play-by-play of what happened earlier today when we were trying to have sex. Eventually I got it between her legs, but then I just think I was just rubbing up against the thigh probably. I think she didn't say anything to be nice. But talk about elusive. Her orifices are more elusive than Michelle Shock's music online. And that's saying something. Okay, fine, I admit it. I'm just incredibly bad at finding them. But you know, I didn't take anatomy in college. Nobody ever said, hey, don't hump someone's elbow to me. I mean, granted, the sex ed class I took was a budget sex ed class. My parents enrolled me to save money. It was taught by two Bulgarian immigrants who didn't speak great English. Also, they kind of mushed together all the stuff for boys and stuff for girls. It was a co-ed health introduction to your body kind of class. That was a big contributing factor to why I wasted so much money and so many years wearing tampons. I was like, man, what a light flow again this month. I don't see really any blood on this. I didn't know how they worked. I thought you just put it in your underwear like a pad. But I never knew what to do with that little string. So I just tie it to my wiener. I just thought I was lucky. I just had an incredibly light flow every month. Couldn't even see any blood. I had an app on my phone to tell me when I was menstruating. One day, it was that time of the month, and I'd forgotten about it. I went into the men's room to look for a tampon, and there weren't any tampon machines in there, obviously. So I knocked on the ladies' room door and I said, "Can somebody please get me a tampon? My period's starting today." And that's when I learned that men don't menstruate. Even though men is the first word in menstruate. It was a real eye-opener that day. That woman took a few minutes and explained to me how women have a uterus. I thought I did too, right? How women don't have a prostate. I thought they did. How, women can't wear condoms. Those are only for men. I'd previously tried to have this discussion with sexual partners. Said, look, let's take let's take turns wearing the condom. And they were always confused. And that was the day I understood why. I had the doctor remove my IUD. At that point, I realized it was pointless. I stopped douching. Mostly, if I'm really feeling not so fresh, I'll still use a little Summer's Eve by Massengill. And it made me kind of go back in my head and question a lot of what happened during those gynecology visits I was going to. They had me up in this chair in these stirrups, legs spread, digging around down there, my face covered with an iron crate. I said, what are you treating again? And they said, gynecology. Well, I figured, I guess I don't really know much about gynecology, so they must know what they're doing. And they periodically give me alarming pieces of diagnosis or whatever. I remember one visit, they said, there were two of them. There were a couple of Armenian guys. And they said, it looks like you might need a hysterectomy. And I said, what's a hysterectomy? And they said, well, we got to take out your fallopian tubes. And I'm like, Jesus, what's wrong with them? And they said, they're clogged with bone resin. So that gave it a lot more verisimilitude to me. I was like, well, that makes sense. So I believed them. Later, I found out they weren't even doctors. They just had a gynecologist chair set up on the sidewalk and a sign that said, budget gynecology service. It's all a big scam. Anyways, so after that, there was a time I thought I was pregnant. So much so that I went to 3 months of Lamaze class. And I was confused. They kept asking me, where's your wife? Where's your partner? Where's the person who's pregnant? And I kept saying, well, I'm the person who's here. Then I realized it had been a false positive. I took another pregnancy test, and it said, you are not pregnant. You can imagine my relief. I also had another time when I thought I had miscarried, but I just had turned it to be just an unusually large poo. Well, for a moment, I really felt the pain of what it's like to lose a child. Then there was a time I thought my water had broken, but it turned out I was just going pee. a lot of misapprehensions over the years. Yeah. At the time I thought I had a yeast infection. Turned out I was just baking bread. Once I was using WebMD, diagnosed myself with ovarian cysts. Turned out just to be my ribs. That was the day I learned about ribs. I had previously just thought they were things you eat in restaurants. So, a lot of misconceptions. There was a time I thought I was lactating. It turned out I just spilled milk down my shirt. There was a time I thought I had queefed during sex when turned out I had just said the word Queen Latifah. It was that occasion. Just trying to think back and remember all the instances, Sometimes it takes me a second to remember another one of them. Let's see. There was a time I thought I was starting menopause. It turned out I was just in a very hot place at the time. I was in Death Valley in the summer. It was not a hot flash. Then there's the time I thought I was getting a C-section. Turned out I was just purchasing a half shirt, which I never ended up really incorporating in my wardrobe that much. There was a time I thought my birth control pills were maybe contributing to some health problems. But it turned out I was just taking speed. And I'm not sure why I'd ever thought they were birth control pills. I just remember when I first started taking them, I'm like, being on birth control is the best. Oh, then there's the time I was concerned that my progesterone levels were getting too high, but it turned out I just have a genuine interest in fashion. Oh, sure, there are plenty of other instances I could reference. Oh, so many. Like the time I thought I might be getting an allergic reaction from my makeup, but turned out that's just how my face looked. And there was a time that I thought my two-piece was a little revealing of a camel toe, and it turns out it was just my junk hanging out, you know. Wasn't a camel toe at all. That was the day that the lifeguard had to come talk to me at the beach. Not one of my prouder days. I said, but this bikini looks cute on me. He said, that's not a bikini, that's a pair of bun huggers. Can you please tuck your dick back inside? So I did, you know. There was a time that I was breastfeeding at a restaurant. Some people gave me some flack. And I said, hey, free the nipple. They said, our objection is that you're breastfeeding an adult man. And I said, he's big for his age, I guess, but he's actually a toddler. And then the man fessed up to me. Said, I gotta admit something, I was lying to you, Eric. I'm not 2 years old. I am, in fact, 42 years old. And boy, did I feel gullible. This, what I thought, a 2-year-old said to me, I'm 2 years old. If you don't breastfeed me, I'll die. I felt obligated to do it. Only to realize later I had been hornswoggled. Bamboozled even. Hornswoggled, bamboozled, fooled even. That pretty much sums up my history of all the damage done by that one bad health class that I took that one time. Yeah, for a long time, I thought it wasn't possible to get pregnant during the day. Eventually I learned it's not possible for me to get pregnant at all. I was shocked. I'd spent years avoiding getting pregnant. It was both a shock and a relief. Because I really had a hard time coming to terms with the possibility that I might be barren. Turns out that I never had a chance to ever be anything but barren, like, you know, all other men. I was like, hey, cool. I'm not responsible for that. So, you know, I had to change a lot of my ways, obviously. Stopped wearing secret. It's pH balance for a woman, you know. I stopped thinking I was a lesbian. I'd always previously been confused, like, why isn't scissoring working very well? And I kind of felt ashamed of this, but I thought it was some sort of alternative lesbian sex. Like, I guess I'm just bad at being a lesbian. And I realized, oh, that's why the scissoring isn't working. Probably should have figured that one out. Well, well, that's the thing. I assumed that if I worked at it long enough, I'd begin to chop my partner in half. But not a bit of progress. I'm assuming that's how lesbians got off. They chopped each other in half. Oh, lesbians? Yeah, they have sex. They one of them is sidesies, one of them is flatsies, and naturally, they take turns. They synchronize a nice rhythmic chopping. It's actually not just chop, 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 chop. It's like they get a rhythm like this: chop, 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 chop. That's how they get maximal satisfaction. It's a lesbian universal, along with their love of Subarus. But I don't want to get all preachy about my lesbian ways. I know that a lot of people here are probably breeders, people who are not included in one of the letters. So I'm not going to try to impose my lesbian worldview on you. I don't want to convert you. That's a lie told by the lamestream media. If I could reach my glasses from here, maybe I can. Oh yeah, look at this, my glasses, dear. I guess I win somehow. Okay, now that I won ham, God designed men, men designed women. That's why women look better, because they were designed by men, while men were designed by God, who is a woman. Well, if God's a woman, why don't men look better then? Because men are better designers than God? Well, of course, she's just a woman. Is that who's putting the Skippy in people's lunches? Is Jesus provided an unasked for service? I don't want Jiffy in my lunches. I want to be more spiffy in my hunches. Some gods are women. Like, you gotta figure the Holy Ghost must be a chick, huh? Since God and Jesus are both dudes. So, I hadn't really thought about the Holy Ghost being a chick before, but it seems clear to me now. ghosts can have gender be part of their identity as well. Otherwise, you're just not being woke, which means you're being asleep. And if you think now's a good time to be asleep, you're lying to yourself. May all of the wakefulness and all of the woke be brought to bear on the important issue of gender identity in ghosts. Race, gender, and identity in ghosts. Part of your major in community studies. It's one of the mandatory classes now, hopefully. Look, just because a man died a man doesn't mean he remains a man. He may be a woman ghost, and that's okay. That's his choice. Using ectoplasm, he may have his penis and testicles removed in his ghost form. It's easy to get plastic surgery done when you're made out of ectoplasm. If you make a mistake, you can just rebuild part of it, And one of the cool things about ghosts, they don't have any chromosomes. So you can't make the argument that they're not whatever gender they would say they are. And in fact, after they've had their initial gender reassignment surgery, once they've passed over, well, you can't even tell them apart from the real thing because, like I said, it's as much sculpture as it is surgery. So don't try to impose your gender duality norms nor any of your other norms on ghosts, okay? Ghosts, ironically, for being the least awake of us, are the most woke. And that's one to grow on. I know it appears none of you have professors this semester, but hiring on our normal criterion of who's most woke, we've filled your classroom with ghost professors. Only the most spiritually sensitive of you will be able to see your professors. But be assured they're there. And if you have any questions, ask the TA. And that's how ghosts came to take over the college professor field, So, anthropology. If I were to major in anthropology, my area of specialization would be as follows. I would explain to the savages why civilization is preferable to savagery. Now, these same savages before used to be studied as kind of objects of analysis in a patronizing way by anthropologists. But my plan as a professional anthropologist is to show them respect as equal human beings and to tell them the truth, explaining to them why civilization is preferable to savagery. What does that mean? That means they're going to need to stop romanticizing living in the jungle, yada yada. They're going to have to accept that if they want to engage their own existence, they need to engage not just their own personal future, but the future of humanity as a whole. That to embrace the life of a Luddite, scratching in the dirt, communing with nature or whatever, is to abdicate a basic responsibility as a human being that they have. I will prove to them, in a case that's irrefutable, that civilization is better than savagery. And at that point, they'll have no choice but to agree with me. Because, after all, I will have made my case so well. That's what anthropologists should do. They should demonstrate the proper way to civilize savages. It's not to conquer them or kill them or whatever. It's to explain to them why civilization is better. And if they ever want people to genuinely respect them, they should reject the ways of savagery. Otherwise, they're just going to get this sort of patronizing, like, ooh, sorry we killed you all shit, which is not conducive to being an equal human being in modern society. So, that's my message to the savages. Yes, Trouble? As part of my ongoing message, let's stop romanticizing these fucking savages. It's not like the Indians were great. They had slaves. They killed the weak and the old so they wouldn't slow them down. They had wars. They were just as awful as everybody else. The only difference is they didn't have agriculture. They didn't have permanent homesteads and an economy and shit like that. They didn't have science. They didn't have the Enlightenment. You know, they were savages. I don't remember ever reading any, Apache book on reason, morality, and language. They didn't even know how to write shit down. They didn't know how to write. They were illiterate savages. Why should we romanticize that? Has anybody ever read any kind of book by some Apache thinker in the 18th century? No. Why? Because even though they were unmolested by Europeans for thousands of years, they never even figured out writing, let alone wrote a book that people would read hundreds of years later. People still read Shakespeare and the Iliad and shit like that. They wasted all of their time building teepees and shooting buffaloes with arrows. I mean, why should we, lionize this culture and civilization that didn't even care enough about itself to have keep a written record? Right? We should just obviously be like, all right, savages, time to be civilized. I know that you, for whatever reason, didn't figure it out in the last couple thousand years. Who knows why? Maybe it was too abundant resources around here or something. But here, this is what it looks like. Here's writing. Here's reading. With those skills, you can read all these different books and figure out civilization, how to be civilized yourself, too. The point is, you get to live in a house instead of, lying on the ground. You don't have to follow animals around. Every time there's somebody weak or whatever, you don't have to kill them. You get to do some more slightly more scientific weather forecasting than your ridiculously ill-advised notion that by dancing you can cause rain to occur. There's a lot of advantages to civilization, and there are no advantages to savagery. I mean, if you really like camping a lot, I guess then the advantage of savagery is you're permanently camping. Uh, if you like wandering around all the time, looking for animals to shoot, might be your thing. But, I was like, oh, look at these gorgeous woven Indian baskets. I mean, at the time the Europeans encountered the Indians, they had so many different ways to hold things that were so much better, both in concept, process, execution, than weaving a basket out of sticks like a bird. Yet, we celebrate all this nonsense. Like, oh, this is an incredibly valuable Sioux Indian beaded basket. What beautiful beading work here. Yeah, okay. It's like putting beads on sticks like a little girl is hardly what I'd call high accomplishment civilization, right? And here you see how this Indian tribe's a real tool that they used. It's a real Indian axe. It's a rock tied to a stick. What is this? Eric's Technology Hour? Come on. Just look at the beautiful craftsmanship. They literally banged rocks together to make an axe head and tied it to a stick. That's not a good way to make an axe. They didn't even know how to smelt metal. They didn't have any real currency, so no real economy. They were big into slavery. Granted, the Europeans were also into slavery. But, you know, they had a lot of tribal warfare going on. And, there was no good form of government as we would recognize it now. No structural means to improve the way things are done. No institutions of good governance, just like tribal elders. Oh, let the old people decide. How about we let the right people decide? Doesn't that make sense? So, the proper frame of reference on the whole thing is Native Americans should be like, hey, it's kind of cool that your ancestors came and got us out of savagery. That's like that. And also, obviously, you don't get any credit for it because you didn't get me out of savagery. Like, the Indians should be leading the charge on how much better civilization is than savagery. After all, they're all driving trucks, enjoying the proceeds from the casinos, living in houses with electricity and plumbing and stuff, and going, you know, I never lived in savagery myself, but reflecting upon it objectively, I gotta say, fuck that Indian tribe shit. I may be named Running Eagle, whatever, but you just call me Bob. I say no thanks to savagery. Let's just do away with romanticizing it entirely. I'm a woke Indian. I want to have nothing to do with that pre-Enlightenment garbage. That's what I'd say if I were a Native American. I'd say, I don't know why you guys are clinging to your, well, let's romanticize at the time when our forefathers were savages. Shit, but I'm not playing that game. You go shoot bows and arrows out there if you want, spirit journeys and shit. I'm gonna go be a civilized human being, thank you very much. To be like, look, I'm sure our forefathers hated all the genocide and everything, but fortunately, fuck yeah for this, I didn't have to go through all that genocide. I just get all the benefits of civilization. So let's just lose all this. My identity is an Indian thing because that's dumb. Why romanticize that stupidity? And that's one to grow on. And that's how smart Native Americans approach their purported heritage. The in general should be a rule for everybody, right? Fuck my heritage. I'm going to be the correct person, not anything linked to some group that either themselves or others to whom they attribute like nature connection shit. Fuck that shit because I ain't the one to be put into your group and turned into some sort of savage again, even though we don't, and I don't live like that and would never want to. So I refuse to be, squatting pig or whatever. Give me a regular name, and let's all put this Indian shit to bed. That's how I would lead the Indian peoples away from their silly nonsense. If only I were, from their perspective, a Native American. Like full-blooded Cherokee. They didn't invite me to their tribal council because of the purity of my blood. I'd lay the hammer down. I'd say, what is this shit? Headdresses, rain dances, and stuff. This isn't the 16th century. Why are we playing at savagery still? It's for the casino goers mostly. Okay, yeah, but you all know how much of this bullshit is still being spread around to all of us Indians. All this, we're one with the land shit. All this, our land was stolen shit. Each of us has our own place. Some of us own it, some of us rent. This whole our land shit, we all know that's bullshit now. Sure, there are these reservations, which supposedly are under our control, but never are when anything important matters. So let's just stop pretending to be different from other people and just embrace the wonderful world that is civilized life, rejecting all vestiges of our savage past. Correct, everybody says. And that's when to go on. Now, what other wrongness shall we shit on before bed? Let's see. Oh, when people say meow and they mean meow. When people say pew and they mean pia. Rachel, what did you call something today? You called something weird. If you're still awake. You called something by a strange name. I wonder what it was. Maybe I put this. It's gotta be that way though, right? What else could it possibly be? Maybe you use this instead of a lens. Probably that's it. Well, I'm getting pretty tired. It's almost like I should go to sleep. But almost like and like are different. Both of which are different than exactly the same as. Good buddy, how are you? Pretty tired. I don't identify as white. I identify as all races and no races. Sometimes some races, sometimes others. I can arbitrarily decide what race I am and change it constantly. That's what race I am. If you ask me what race I am, I'll tell you that. But if you ask me, are you Filipino? I'll say, yeah, definitely. It's one of my races. I speak Tagalog. I love providing pedicures and manicures for people. And I'm from the Philippines. If they ask me, are you Icelandic? I'll say, yeah, definitely. You couldn't pronounce my Icelandic name, though, because it's got too many consonants. A lot of G's, a lot of J's, a lot of K's. So don't even try. I wonder what some common Icelandic names are. You'd think I'd know being Icelandic, but I have a learning disability that prevents me from knowing names that are common in my own country. Common Icelandic names. Gudmundur. My Icelandic name's Gudmundur. Gudmundur is one of the top 9 most popular names in Iceland. It means under God's protection. Gudmundur. You Gudmundur. Get out of here. You're always mundering good in ways that I don't like. If you're gonna munder good around me, you're gonna need to do it in very precise fashion. Huh. It's interesting. It doesn't seem to have my current live stream. It does on the homepage, just not under lives. So we're gonna be beginning the whole production process for Chutes and Ladders and Horror anytime now. We'll be scouting locations. Obviously, we're looking at a lot of playgrounds because that's mostly where you're going to find Chutes. You can find ladders other places, but Chutes are most common on playgrounds. We're also considering building some sets with some Chutes we build so that not all the chute rides are on playground slides. Unfortunately, we only have a budget of $1 for the film. Fliggerder? Pishmasser? Pishmasser? What does that mean? Somebody who mashes your pish? The second floor money. The second floor. Whatever type I said he was at the end. I don't remember what I said. Oh, I think I said he was an INTP, but I might have said he was an INTP. I haven't thought about it much. I had another typing session right after that lasted 2 hours and kind of pushed the specifics, like kind of displaced the specifics in the immediacy slot in my head. So I stopped thinking about it, I'm not really thinking about that lady either, but I am thinking about going to bed. I'm thinking about not really anything right now. Just thinking that I'm clearly not full of rapid fire insights to deliver, not especially full of pep at the moment. I'm writing out the end of the day's uppers as I'm writing in the post-onset heavyish part of the evening's downers. So that makes me a little bit slower than I might otherwise be in my communication. More about, say, garnering the motivation to speak, in other words, having something specific to say, than it is about being able to convey what I do have to say quickly. But I'll say something that's going to make a lot of sense right now. Before I bid you all a very fond adieu. Before I wish you good times in slumberland, before I wish you a mutually profitable engagement with the Sandman, before I wish you the best, most revelatory, lucid, empowering, and magical dreams of your life. Well, none of those things can come true unless we have a cigarette first. Because that's the catalyst. You gotta have some kind of a catalyst in life. Fire is a good catalyst. But, like some kind of ritual dance could be a good catalyst, presumably. Maybe doing dancing party dance would be a good catalyst for big metaphysical communities. And that look could be a catalyst. But tonight, the catalyst will be one of the 4 Greek elements. You might say, isn't that smoke? Well, remind you of an old saying, where there is smoke, there's fire. That does not necessarily mean that where there's fire, there's smoke. We might, infer that, but it would be a probability inference thing. Could just easily be sounds like an animal being killed by another animal. And then silenced. Maybe like a big cat got something. Perhaps a rabbit or a squirrel or raccoon or something. Well, that's the cruelty of nature, I suppose. The lady? No, the lady won't be uploaded. I don't want a coke habit. Instead, I want a joke habit. I already have one. I made a long sequence of jokes about problems ensuing from my going to wrong health class and believing that all the things I said to the girls applied to me. But right now, I want to talk seriously. Because you know what's really serious? Being serious is pretty important. Because this isn't a game. Okay? People are dying every day because they think this is some kind of game. Don't be one of them. Instead of being a game, This is real. This is as real as it gets, buddy. You think your so-called reality TV shows are real. Well, what's really real is life. And life will kick you in the ass. It'll kick you in the ass. And once your ass bone is broken, it won't even turn around and look. Give you a shred of sympathy. You'll be sitting there with a broken ass, wondering what you did to deserve to have life kick you in it, until you remember, I didn't listen hard enough to Eric that one night he was talking about this. How do you avoid that? Well, first of all, you gotta keep a vigilant eye on life. It's a sneaky, shady character. It'll try to pull shit if you're not watching it. Now, I hate that stuff. Like, I harass people in the supermarket. Like, my notion for a video where I go to the tampon aisle and I mansplain to women what products they should buy. See how that flies. See how that plays. I think that would play well. Probably not. Now, I don't really believe in non-consensually including people in art. So, I'm not likely to do any of that stuff. It seems like being a bad citizen artistically. So, you'd wake me right up and fill me up with beans? Well, Boba Fett, I'm not trying to let you fill me up with beans. Where are you planning to pour them? You know, are you going to pour beans in my butt or down my throat? Either way, how are beans going to keep me awake? Just because it makes me fart so much? I don't think that's a good strategy to fight off narcolepsy. Well, it might be. Might be. My preferred strategy to fight off narcolepsy is obviously something from the amphetamine class. But in a pinch, I could fight off narcolepsy by not doing any amphetamines and getting all slept out. And I just stay awake for too long too. Fortunately for me, for you, for Rachel, for the world, for people everywhere from Beirut to Islamabad, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. I'm going to tuck myself into bed just like I tuck a hamburger patty between two buns. The mattress will be the bottom bun, blanket's the top bun. Rachel next to me, she'll be a second patty. But instead of stacked on top of one another, we're going to be laying side by side, which suggests a very large bun. In that regard, perhaps, my otherwise perfect analogy breaks down. But I'll leave you with this one final thought. Keep either one of the two following things in your prayers: Burger King or Starbucks. Because we're either going to retain a Burger King, our only drive-thru, or they're going to replace it with a Starbucks. If you like Rachel and want to support her cause, I ask that you keep Starbucks in your thoughts and prayers tonight rather than Burger King. Personally, I'm not sure I really care about it either way, because Rachel has a preference. That's my preference as well. So, goodbye, good night, good luck, and don't forget to eat at Burger King. Who knows when they'll all be gone? It's clearly a failing business. Come out of here, y'all. God. Trying to be so difficult. Goodbye.